I've just got a couple of quick questions, please, about CSIRO's own source income, which I understand is external revenue from industry in the main. I note that it's reduced by $154 million or 25% this financial year compared to last. Can I ask what the major contributor to the loss of that revenue is, please, Dr. Marshall?
Yeah, primarily the impacts of COVID, Senator, and just for clarity, we forecast our revenue forward across the estimates. It's obviously difficult to do that in normal times, because if you take away the 300 odd million of our budget that we spend on collaborative infrastructure for universities to use, then roughly half of our funding comes externally and half comes from appropriate. So it's a big impact on the organisation, and that half that's from external varies depending on the market. With the recession following COVID globally, there's a lot of uncertainty, even more than normal, about what the revenue will be. So far, we haven't seen as big a fall off in revenue as we thought. We have seen some, but we think the real impact of the recession hasn't quite hit yet, because there are a number of supports around the world to kind of keep their economies going, and that won't last forever.
Yes, I'm inclined to agree, and wanted to ask you about that. Which sectors and industries are you expecting to see this biggest decline in partnership investment?
Yeah, so as a general rule, Senator, the hardware type partnerships that we have, we do a lot of work, for example, with companies like Boeing, to make air travel safer, more environmentally friendly, that sort of thing. The work we do in manufacturing, anything involving hard goods and hands-on, tends to be more at risk. And then obviously the digital work that we do, a lot of companies have not only not been that impacted because their work is digital, some of them have actually flourished because of the crisis. And so in rare cases, we've seen increases in revenue. But that's a general case. And then in the Australian context, the impacts, I think, have been slower to manifest than they have elsewhere in the world. Roughly 20% of CSIRO's external revenue comes from global companies, Microsoft, Boeing, and so on, Google. And the global slowdown has been faster than the domestic slowdown.
Is some of it contracted and locked in, or is it all flexible, or does that vary?
Yeah, most of our contracts are shorter term.
Yeah.
And of course, in a pandemic, it's difficult to enforce contracts. Okay.
And are there projects at risk as a whole? How do you maintain your? How do people maintain their jobs at CSIRO, but also the expertise and knowledge if there are particular sectors like manufacturing or hardwoods or air travel that are impacted?
Yeah, so
how are you managing that?
Yeah, for the last 4 years, we've managed our minerals business unit through a more than 50% contraction of the minerals industry. So it's comparable to what could happen with COVID. And yet we managed to navigate that business unit through and back into a growth mode. So that sort of 3 to 4 year period generally is enough time to navigate through a major disruption like that. We've never had to do it across all 10 of our business units before.
And you are doing that almost.
But this budget safety net does carry us for 4 years, which, as I said, is generally enough time to navigate through a major disruption.
Okay.